The Sunday Times says the Conservatives will cap energy prices, saving families around £100 a year if they win the election. The Sunday Telegraph quotes their campaign chief, Sir Patrick McLaughlin, who says the UK wouldn't be safe under Jeremy Corbyn. Now, there are plenty of polls flying around today, as you'd expect, and the Sunday Mirror reports on one which puts the Conservatives on 50%. That is their highest rating in 26 years. 1 in 7 Labour voters will switch allegiance and vote Conservative. That's according to the Sunday Express. But the Mail on Sunday has a different story, saying Theresa May's lead has fallen to 11% after a row over tax and pension plans. And the Observer leads on an interview with Lib Dem leader Tim Farron, who emphatically rules out a coalition deal with any of the other parties. Now, joining me to talk about all the big stories are the author and journalist Lucy Wadham, technology entrepreneur Scott Fletcher, and the chief leader writer for The Observer, Sonia Sodha. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Lots to talk about. A lot has changed in the last week. It feels like we've got to start with the election, which is in all the papers, as you'd expect. But the Sunday Times in particular, Tim Shipman, their political editor, saying the lady is going for gold. It's a sign, he says, that this is her seizing control of politics in the UK and also strengthening her hand in Brussels too. So it sounds like a glowing recommendation there, really.
I actually thought this was about the marathon today, actually, with the caricatures. Very, very nice looking piece.
I don't think we're going to see the Prime Minister jogging along in the marathon, Scott. I think this is a really interesting sort of behind-the-scenes take on why and how the election got called. So some quite good nuggets in here. First of all, the secrecy that was around the election being called, and it was quite phenomenal, really. So May decided that she was going to call the election when she was on an Easter walking holiday, got back, informed her 2 closest advisors, and then you had lots of cabinet members, not shadow cabinet, not there yet, sitting around the table, really surprised that an election was called. So that's quite phenomenal.
It's amazing it didn't leak as well. You'd think that journalists would have got a bit of a sniff of it.
I know, but it just shows you how tight the Theresa May operation is.
Exactly what I was going to say, yeah. An interesting bit here about Osborne. One journalist suggested that maybe it was a 5% of the decision to get Osborne out of his seat. And somebody said, you think only 5%? So, interesting on that one. I mean, I live up in Tatton, and it'd be interesting to see who takes his place.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting one too. I'm slightly disturbed by this quote here. Tory MPs have taken to referring to their female boss as mummy.
I found that incredibly disturbing as well. I mean, what a nickname. I know, it's just a bit...
Really not sure about that at all.
Yeah.
Now, we've got loads of polls in the paper as well. Some quite extraordinary polls, really, showing the Conservatives' lead. Do we trust polls anymore?
Well, I do, and to the extent that, we know they got the 2015 general election wrong, we know they got Brexit wrong too, but when you've got poll leads of this amount, really, some polls putting the Tories on a 20-point lead, some on 25 points, it's really a stretch, I think, to think that they're wrong.
How you can say you trust them. I think now they use polls to change the psychology of the electorate. You've got the Mirror saying there's a massive lead of 25 points, and you've got the Mail saying 11%. And is that about getting the electorate out to vote, maybe?
Yeah, that is quite... The Mail one, I think, is actually quite interesting, isn't it? Because really that is benefiting the Conservatives, isn't it? By saying that, you need to get out and vote, you can't be complacent because the lead's been...
And I think the Conservatives have actually got something to fear here. It's interesting. I think the tactics they're using are quite similar to 2015, and Theresa May has already appointed Linton Crosby, who ran David Cameron's campaign. So they're really going quite hard on, personality politics. They're saying it's going to be a coalition of chaos if you vote for Labour or the Lib Dems. Now, the problem with that strategy is that we know that the voters from the polls have kind of already dismissed the idea of Jeremy Corbyn as being Prime Minister. So I think the Tories are getting a little bit worried about expectations being so high. Does that mean people will stay at home? But I don't think it's going to be enough to make a difference in the election.
Tax will be the interesting subject, because she's trying to dismiss that at the moment. But, that's what won the last election for the Tories.
Do you think it is?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, tax, I think it sounds like it's going up whoever's in power, doesn't it? That's the...
Well, we're all at that stage of accepting that now, but maybe she's won that argument.
Well, what's interesting is the Sunday Times front page talks about her pledge to cap energy prices as well, which was what my old boss, Ed Miliband, I used to work for, one of his policies. So I think it is interesting. There's definitely a bit of a grab for the rhetorical centre ground going on.
Yeah, you can definitely see that. Now, it's easy to forget that there is another election going on at the same time, of course, which is the French elections. Here is a piece in the Sunday Times saying about how France is in a state of anxiety and that terror is really the thing that's kind of looming over the French elections, because of course we had that appalling attack in Paris very soon before the election. Lucy, do you think that's something that could really sort of affect the votes here?
I do. I mean, I'm sitting here. The reason I've been so quiet until now is that I've been living in France for the past 30 years and have only recently returned to Britain. So, you know, this is my sort of area of special interest. And this election is significant, particularly because the French, the future of Europe hangs in the balance, and the French may well vote for an anti-European parliament, which could lead to Frexit and...
Frexit, like what you did there.
And, of course, all Theresa May's best-laid plans could be scuppered, that her intention, I think the quote here, one of her close aides talked about, we're doing it so the Europeans don't have us over a barrel in 2019. You know, if France does exit, the whole thing will be up for discussion.
Well, the scary thing, I mean, you said earlier, 1 in 3 French voters don't know how they're going to vote, even today.
Yes.
You know, which is a scary thing. Will they not vote? Will they make the decision at the ballot box?
Very difficult to tell.
And this could mean, you know, this could mean instability in Europe. It could mean, you know, massive impact on Brexit, I think. You know, so you know, the next couple of weeks are going to be interesting.
Do you think the French are living in a state of fear at the moment?
I think they are. I think but the anxiety is runs deeper than just terrorism. There's an anxiety about French identity, and I think that one of the reasons why the outcome of this election is so uncertain. Will it go to the far-right leader Marine Le Pen? Will it go to the centrist Emmanuel Macron? Or will the far-left Jean-Luc Mélenchon take it? All three are possible. And I think the French have always built their identity on great ideals: liberty, equality, and fraternity.
Think back to the revolution, don't you?
Exactly. And these great ideals, the problem is the gap between these ideals and the reality for example, ethnic minorities, for the rural poor. There's a huge gap, and that is what is being expressed in this election.
One way or another, that's nationalism, isn't it? You know, whether it's the left or the right, exactly. You know, and that becomes a Frexit at some point, whether, you know, whichever way that goes.
Yeah.
Well, talking of those great ideals, let's talk about Labour's new policy. 4 new bank holidays a year. Sorry, pledged by Jeremy Corbyn. Sounds like a vote winner, doesn't it?
Well, I'm sure it's going to be. I'm sure if you polled it, it'd be incredibly popular. But I think 2 things about this. First of all, Jeremy Corbyn's got an awful lot of popular policies now. They don't seem to be making any difference to his poll ratings, and that, of course, is exactly the same position that Ed Miliband found himself in before the 2015 election. He had lots of popular policies, but popular policies do not a Labour Prime Minister make.
Although if they get nicked by the Conservatives,
well, if they get, they can do quite well. But the other thing is this just smacks a little bit of desperation, perhaps, dare I say. 4 new bank holidays, trying to bribe the electorate.
I think it's very sort of left of centre command and control politics. Actually, why bank holidays? Why not make the minimum, the legal minimum, which is currently 20 days, 24, 25, and let employees decide when they take their leave? You know, I think to say to business you've got to shut down for another 4 days is a ridiculous policy.
In France, they have lots of bank holidays, don't they?
They do. They have 11. And if they fall on a Thursday, everyone takes Friday off. And so there's a culture of bank holidays in France. And I don't think, I'm in favour of them, because I don't think it makes people, the French don't work less hard, I think, than the Brits do.
I would suggest their economic policies aren't quite what they are in the UK. I mean, here it says, I don't know if this figure's right, but it costs the economy 2.3 billion a year for each bank holiday that we take. So that's 10 billion.
Happiness, you know, those bank holidays when you've got a bit of spring barbecue or something, surely?
Well, we can go full circle with the happiness. The marathon's being run today for the 9 charities. I think that's a great thing. And, you know, happiness indexes are all great, but we need to run the economy in the right way.
They're also at completely the wrong time of year, though. We've already got kind of lots of bank holidays in the first half of the year, and, you know, Jeremy Corbyn's proposing another 2 in March. Well, we normally have the Easter bank holiday in March, so it's a bit maybe not the best well thought.
Dark winter nights or something is when we need a bit more time off. Thank you very much for your thoughts on today's newspaper stories. Well, after the break, I'll be speaking to the Shadow International Trade Secretary, Barry Gardner. Stay with us.